All right. Welcome, everyone. We're glad to be back. This is Sober Sunday with Simon Bevy. You would not believe this is episode 14. This is the 14th episode. We have had very good conversations, stimulating conversations here every Sunday. We have loved to hear from lots of you. You've been very active. You have asked questions. And today it's going to be a wonderful day as we come to the end of August. Coronavirus hit, it has affected us a lot. Economies have been shaken, jobs have been lost, income reduced, and a lot of uncertainty as we don't know how long this is going to be. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, or even 3 years before economies get back on their feet. So we are glad today to be able to have a conversation on wisdom for these lean times, lean financial times. We're going to be talking about managing personal, business, family, finances, but also investment. We're going to be talking about investment. So I'm really excited to have some choice guests here. Let me invite all of you. Please invite your friends. Tell them we have begun. Host some watch parties. And feel free to ask questions. We're going to be taking some of your questions and comments and bringing them to this wonderful panel that I have today. So let me introduce my panelists, and we're going to get down to it. Let me start with a lady. Gladys Duma is a friend of mine. We met a while ago. She's written now 2 books, and she's going to mention them. Congratulations, Gladys. I know your second book came out just a few days ago around personal finances and using God's wisdom in that. And so she's going to be sharing with us lots of wisdom, some of which she has written down. So Gladys Duma is a coach, is a trainer, and several other things, of course, and all that as well. So Gladys, welcome. Say hi to us and let us know what we need to know about you in addition.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor S. And hello to everybody who's tuned in today. My name is Gladys Duma, as you've heard, a personal finance coach and author of 2 books, Smart Money Habits. This is the one that Pastor S is talking about that was launched just last week, actually. We just had a couple of books sold out to date. And it's a book that purely speaks habits, 5 habits to financial success. I don't want to speak much about it, Pastor S, just to encourage everybody to be able to grab their own copy. They'll be thankful that they did. My first book is Managing Your Finances God's Way. And this is a book that comes with its own workbook. And it's based on 10 steps, each following each other, steps, chapter 1 to chapter 10. Again, a lot of learning. It's a very detailed book, that's based on scripture, just going by the title. Another book that I'd recommend for the listeners to get. It's available in just about every bookshop around you, textbook center, etc. But you can order all of these books from my website, gladysduma.com, or you can email us. I'd be able to read this email personally, hello@gladysduma.com. I'm also a part-time lecturer at Strathmore University. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Gladys. We're glad to have you here. Let me go to my friend, Pastor Julian Chula. We're excited to have you here. You've been in business. I mean, sometimes it's hard to know how to introduce you, but you've done lots of business, different kinds. You're the senior pastor and founder of Purpose Center, the Purpose Center, and doing a lot to impact a lot of us. I've listened to you a lot on business, and I know that your input is going to be greatly valuable. So welcome, Julian. Feel free to say more about yourself.
Thank you, Pastor Simon. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for inviting me. And I'm looking forward to tonight and sharing some nuggets and thoughts. It's great to hear the amazing stuff that Gladys has done with her books. So I'm also looking forward to learning from her and from Leonard. Thanks for inviting us.
And I know you've written many books as well. How many now? Pastor Julian.
You had to throw that on me, huh? Actually, the truth is we're right now reviewing 3 of them. I'm about 10 books behind, but 3 of them are supposed to be out before December, and they're all being launched at the same time. So I can confidently say we are on the verge of getting the books out this year.
Yeah, well, we have been waiting for that. So I'm glad they're coming out soon. Recently I met, I think last year, I got to meet Mr. Leonard Mucharo, who has become my friend, and I've also become part of what he's doing in terms of investment, but he's doing an excellent job, and he's going to mention it. So Leonard, we're glad to have you here and looking forward to listening from you in terms of investments.
Thank you, Pastor S. Wonderful to be here with this wonderful team of Gladys and Pastor Chula. I run a company called Savo. We are a real estate company. But I think our real passion is the purpose for which we stand for, which is enabling investors to achieve financial independence. So I'm all about financial independence. Yeah. So I really hope to learn a lot today and hopefully add a little to the discussion.
All right, thank you, everyone. I see some of you have begun to ask questions online even before we begin, but we are glad for all of you tuning in, and make sure you do some watch parties. We are live on Transform Nations Facebook, but several of our other programs as well. We are on Man Enough and Intentional Mom, and those others live as well. But on Gladys Duma's page as well, we are live. And Savo as well. We are live. And Julian, are we?
It's live. I've shared my page.
Live as well. So we're glad to, and you're welcome, all of you, to be able to watch us in all of those pages. Feel free to make comments. So I think let's get into it. People are waiting, as many have tuned in from far and near. And in case you have questions about Gladys' books, feel free to ask that on the website, on our pages. Those who are there will let you know how you can get that. But let's begin with you, Julian, Pastor Julian. I've been watching CNN, and recently I saw a prediction that this is likely to go for another, the financial situation, the uncertainty, the challenge of economies is likely to go for another 2 or 3 years before we can say we're really recovered from COVID-19. What is your prediction, and what do you see coming in the next few years in terms of impact on our finances and the economy?
Thanks, Pastor Simon. Without a doubt, there is there's a phenomena on the earth in terms of things we may never have experienced before in our time, in our generation. However, these are not things those who've lived before us haven't experienced, and therefore history is teaching us a lot about how we should evaluate. This is the most crowded the world has ever been in terms of population, right? If you look at what the population of the earth has grown to in the last 300 years, it's literally over quadrupled what it was pre the 18th century. And therefore, I think it's in the 19th century, if I'm not wrong, that we first hit 1 billion people on the earth. We're now heading towards 8 billion and I think there's prediction that by 2050 we'll be at 10 billion. That means, and then this is also the highest, this is the time of the most advanced technology from a historical perspective, not from a futuristic perspective. And therefore information travels much faster. And that means if there is going to be news, it's no longer Kenyan news or Ugandan news or Russian news. It's now global news because one part of the world sneezes, another part catches a cold, no pun intended. And we are now in a place and a time, without a doubt, that information traveling that fast for a very populated world is going to cause us to have to make decisions. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, not lack of power, not lack of other things. It's knowledge. And therefore, what we must equip ourselves with is knowledge. Is there going to be an economic slump? I want to predict 99.9% yes. Is there going to be a global economic tsunami? I want to say yes, there will be. I don't think we've seen it yet. We are seeing the possibilities of it, or the beginning of it. We're almost seeing the tsunami having gone into the ocean, but we haven't seen the waves. And that's not to be a messenger of doom. That's a message of preparation. And therefore, I don't believe that you can ever have wisdom or counsel against the Lord. And when he tells us to prepare for all kinds of seasons, this is about to be a season that, you're right, we're going to see about another year or two. I think we're into about 3 to 5 years before things catch up into what you call their new normal. Right now, everyone is in what we're calling a coping time. And therefore, you have to allow the things around turnaround mindsets and all to come in. But we'll talk about that later. I believe that CNN is not wrong, but I think for any one of us who has eyes to see, even spiritually, this is without a doubt going to be a very different time. And for people who are people of faith to believe in the Goshen strategy, to start preparing themselves to be able to trust God for this season, and to position themselves right with not just information, but to be around the right people, the right industries, the right businesses, the right situation, because of this season we find ourselves in.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I see Joe Gashira on Facebook is saying we must equip ourselves with knowledge. And I love what you said. I think this is not to scare us. This is being realistic. This is understanding the facts and the reality ahead of us so that we can get ready for what is coming. So let me come to you, Gladys. There are lots of questions I've had from people as I've done training over the past few weeks, for corporates especially. A lot of men and women saying, so what should I begin to do with my personal finances? What are some of the first steps I should take? Of course, some of them have already lost their jobs. Others are on reduced income or salary. Others are making more money now than they have done before. So some may not be as careful to listen to this. But what would you say to everyone? What are some 2 or 3 things that you would say everyone should see as wisdom steps about our finances at this point?
Okay, thank you, Pastor S. For me, I'd begin by telling people to begin by accepting the situation. Yes, Pastor Julian has painted the picture so vividly, so clearly for us. Yes, so if somebody has lost their job or they're surviving on a fraction of their salary, it first begins with acceptance, because what happens before you accept the situation, you'd be blaming somebody else. You know, we've seen people who've almost gone on a physical fist fight with their boss, you know, because they've been told that they have to survive on a bit of their salary. So once they accept, they will be able to get out of the situation sooner, because this is a situation, it's circumstantial. Nobody asked for Corona to be with us, really. It's found us, it's affected us in ways that you'd never have thought about. Then once they accept, I think they should be able to talk to the relevant people. There are people who are surviving on part of their salary, and their spouses don't even know. So you begin by letting people around your circles know, and particularly so for even the parents that you support. Let them know that going forward, or due to reason ABC, they will not be able to provide the support on a timely basis, or that they will not be able to do it in the first place. And you'd be surprised, this would be the time that they'd be paying back. You've supported us over the years, so it's about time that we support you at this particular time. Then practice gratitude. That's the other thing, Pastor S, because it's very easy for anybody to consider themselves to be like in the worst situation. But I tell you, there's a person surviving on a fraction of their salary, but on the same breath, there's someone who has no salary at all. they've had their business closed, they're on no pay whatsoever. They don't know how to put their next meal on the table. So for me, just being in the right frame of mind would be a fantastic starting point before you even look at your numbers, Pastor S.
And I like attitude. I like what you said about attitude. I was reading something that, a statement that was saying the only disability in life is a wrong attitude. When you have a wrong attitude, no one can help you because you just become negative, and everything you see, you act out of fear instead of acting out of knowledge and being able to do the right thing. So yes, attitude is important. Mr. Charo, I know you're doing a great job. I don't know how much your businesses have been affected at this point, but there are lots of people saying there's no industry right now to invest in. And I had someone say, which of course I disagreed with, that this is a time to pull out your money from investments and just keep your money because you need it. In other words, you should divest. You should, what is a word of pulling out from your investments and sell off what you have and just keep the money because you don't know what might happen. What would you say to the Kenyans who are wondering, should I invest? If I have some money somewhere, if I had gotten started buying a house, should I continue to pay that, or should I hold off for a while? What's your wisdom on investments?
Wonderful. I think the topic for today is wisdom for lean times. I think for me, wisdom should always be for lean times, that you always prepare for the worst. I love Solomon in his book of Proverbs, and he says, consider the ant.
Yeah.
The ant doesn't sit and grow fat. The ant always thinks about tomorrow. It's always taking care of the new ants, the eggs. Always piling up food for winter. It's always thinking about tomorrow. And that's our attitude towards investment. You asked whether our business has been affected. We have been extremely fortunate. I think Pastor Julian talked about being in the right industry. We're very, very fortunate that when people are told to stay at home, they come to us and they stay with us because we're in the real estate industry and we do purely residentials. So now people are working from our investments. They are living there. They are working there. They are playing there. So our business has actually got a boost during this season, in terms of just rental income. And the people who have been able to invest with us, it's been very touching that a few who have lost their jobs on a reduced income come to us and say, thanks, guys. We thank God for you because we have food on the table now. Yeah. One of my thoughts about seasons, and we will always go through, I think if you live long enough, we'll always go through something traumatic. I don't think it is possible to prepare for a season in that season. I think you prepare for that season before, so that like now we should be thinking ahead, not just focused on the today. I think we should be thinking ahead. And I think investment, because investments, I think, is first of all a mindset. Yeah, right now is not time to think consumption or hoarding or keeping. It's time to think creativity and thinking about tomorrow and how do we get over this. If this thing is going to last 2, 3, 5 years, you really, really cannot afford to take a stop. You must find a way of thinking ahead.
Yeah. And I'll come to you, Mcharo. I think I love your story, a great story. And by the way, it's been a pleasure to invest with you and to be one of the owners of the upcoming owners of those houses, because I love what you're doing and just the principle behind it. And you're going to mention something about that. Pastor Julian, someone is asking, what are those industries you were talking about that are the right industries? Ministries. I think that is John Kimani online. And you can mention that as you also talk to us about businesses. I think a lot of businesses I've heard from, they were not prepared. They didn't have reserves. They didn't have money set aside. So they've had to let go of some people, or even if they had reserves, there are many that have had to let go of some people, get all the staff on reduced income. And I know you're involved in many businesses. What are some of the nuggets of wisdom we can learn, actions we need to take as businesses during this time?
Sure. First, I think thank you, Pastor Simon. And I'm not sure I necessarily know which the right industries are, but here are people tonight advising us, because, every geography may have a different thing right now that may be key. You may find there's a place thriving on agriculture right now to feed the world. You might find there's another region thriving in the manufacturing sector. Another region is thriving on technology. I mean, someone was commenting that Amazon has done its best business in this season. So I think, to the point of a rainy day, let's be honest, this is not a rainy day. This is a thunderstorm. Yeah. I don't think anybody was really prepared. I'll tell you this. I mean, I know companies that had 15-year reserves. They've used their 15-year reserves, and I sit on some of the advisory boards of some of these places. 15-year reserves got finished in 6 months. Countries have spent reserves, from their budgets. They've gone to over the reserve, because you talk about the UK, which was actually paying salaries for millions of its citizens per month. And therefore, this was not something somebody could really anticipate. We can all prepare for a rainy day, but it's another thing when it's a hurricane. I really want to call this a hurricane of sorts. So I think one of the things leaders must prepare for is to always have turnaround mindsets. When we had the last economic crisis across the world, that was, I think, one of the ones that helped us practice what we need to be getting ready now. American companies took up some of the people that were fighting in wars in Iran and in Kuwait. They actually brought some of those soldiers into top companies. Do you know why? Because these guys were in the field making decisions by the minute. One of the things about a hurricane is the loss of a minute can cost you everything. And so they brought in these people and they helped them steer their organizations into some stable place. It's not that they were necessarily experts in it, but the fact that they knew what to do when an unexpected enemy appears, and the decision you make for that minute determines the life of your entire team. These people went into those markets where investors' money had been, and they helped with what we call turnaround. So the first thing I'd say to everyone is we need to create a turnaround mindset. That means we need a level of fluidity around what we were doing before and the fact that it could change for good. It could change. Business strategies may change. What we had as a 10-year vision may have to be reviewed immediately. Things may have to shift. Things may never go back to the way they used to be. And therefore, we may have to retrain ourselves about a new norm. So I'd say, I'd call it a turnaround business strategy. Number 2 is a speed of understanding the environment. You snooze, you lose. I like something Leonard said about the industry he's involved in. Someone is asking which industry. That's the real estate industry. But I'm sure if I ask him what in the real estate industry he's doing, he's not going to tell me that he's building $1 million homes. So even within an industry, if you go into the wrong thing in an industry, you're going to suffer for not having, and it may work, it may not work, but you've got to do the research that's required to make that happen. I'm a pastor. How is the way churches operate? Has it changed? How should we prepare ourselves for the next phase? What should we learn from this that needs to be shifted? Because the truth never changes. The truth is the same. But the way that truth is spread, administered, whether by social media or how we move that, again, coming to real estate, you're looking at empty buildings in a lot of cities across the world where companies have decided that we can actually cut down globally 50% of our office requirements.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for commercial spaces? How do you get those spaces to shift? Because people are saying, now I need a 3-bedroom house. I really only need 2 bedrooms, but now I need 1 bedroom to be an office. Because from now on, I'm being given an office allowance in my home. So the point I'm trying to make is that a lot is going to shift. If you own a restaurant, a lot is going to shift. You may want to get very acquainted with the entire delivery and logistics around how that works. And so you have to, number 3, innovate within the crisis. Yeah. Within the crisis, so that you don't die, innovate while you're inside it, or things are going to overtake us. There are 3 kinds of people we're going to have. We're going to have the ones who will just look at the storm and say, my day of death has come. We're going to have the ones who had prepared for the storm, for the hurricane, and they will survive. And we're going to have the ones who will learn how to swim in the storm. Wherever we find ourselves, the important thing is to understand that choices and decisions are going to have to be made by you, or they'll be made for you, bottom line. Yeah.
And I like what you said about innovating within the crisis. And let me just ask one more question before I come to you, Gladys. Decisions about reducing staff. I know that has been tough for all of us. I've had to make those decisions. You've had to make that decision. Any wisdom on that?
Look, I employ quite a lot of people in different countries. So what I can tell you is there's what I call the employer's dilemma. And sometimes I wish employees could hear the pain of an employer. There is no magic source to where money comes from. If there is no productivity in a business, there is no, it cannot, it's not sitting somewhere waiting to be. So an employer has to make a decision, which may be to reduce staff, reduce costs, which may touch on the staff. An employer may need to, so I was sharing with some people, the decision an employer will make when the rubber meets the road, because they may have reserves, their business may be doing well, they may employ more in this season, because that's part of what happens in a shift. Some industries start to do better than others because others are being phased out, all right? You can ask Ford what they dealt with during the time when people had horse chariots and they wanted to put a car in every home. They were resisted. They were called the devil's machine. Same to the television. But the point is, if you look at an employer's dilemma, and I'll talk about an employee's dilemma a bit later, but an employer's dilemma is who will I be left with? And the secret to everybody should always be, am I one of the ones who would be left, or am I the ones who would be left out? And if they have to make that decision, what brought them to that decision? That should actually tell you where you sit in an organization in terms of productivity. Because when the rubber meets the road, I will be left with the bare minimum essential people that I need to make this thing survive. And if you're not on that list, there's a reason that you're not on that list. Of course, we can say it was favoritism. People may come up with different reasons. But the reality is this, Pastor Simon, a business is selfish by nature. Therefore, it will be self-preserving. And it will look out to find out who must I be left with for this thing to survive. And finally, the employer himself would be the last Mohican on the team to say, now everyone has gone, I'm the only one left. And even I can't keep this thing alive. I have to shut it down. That's the way it works across the entire world. I've never seen an employer who will keep a bad employee for a business to survive.
Wow. I hear you. It's not been easy. I think for many people, there's some who have felt guilty of letting people go.
Can I say this? I'm so sorry to interrupt. This may not apply to international firms. Let me explain. The closer a company is to its mothership, in other words, to where its holdings is held, the safer those who are in the holdings will be. So if you find a company that is in England and has employees in Kenya, it may not be about hard work. Let me just clarify that statement. That may not be about hard work at all. That will simply be that we're going to look for the country that gives us the least revenues. We're going to look for the market that gives, and there they don't care. They'll just give a blanket dismissal, or they'll close shop, or they'll close supermarkets, because they just go on their flag and say, close, close, close. Anything below this, shut it down if it's not strategically working for us. And there goes the thinking we must have in Africa now, Pastor Simon, is we must create more indigenous companies, because the closer you are to the center, the safer you are from some of these decisions. Sorry, I interrupted. I just wanted to make that small exception.
No, that's okay. And I was saying sometimes for especially Christian business people, they feel guilty when they're letting some people go. But I think I've come to realize you can't be people's God. You cannot replace God in their lives. You've got to do what you've got to do as a leader. You've got to be brave to make the decision that you need to make once you've consulted and you know it's a wise thing to do. But we'll come back to you, Pastor Julian, and lots of questions and comments from many of you. Thank you to all of you, hundreds of you that are tuned in. Many of you are hosting watch parties. Thank you for this conversation, and a lot of you appreciating what we are saying. But let's come to you, Gladys, and talk to us about budgeting. Budgeting is one of the good practices of a person. What are some of the things we should begin to reduce when it comes to cutting costs in our budget during a time like this so that we may be able to survive?
Okay. Thank you, Pastor S. May I begin by saying that a budget or a spending plan should clearly state how monies will be used before the income set in. Mm-hmm. Yes, because what happens is that people wait for an income and then budget, afterwards. The budget should always be there, before the income set in. So I want to advise that
before you move in that, there are a lot of people who say, well, budget is a complicated thing. I'm not an accountant. Should everyone have a budget, and what's the basics of a budget?
Okay, yes, everybody should have a budget. Yes, Pastor Julian will tell you every corporation has a budget. And incidentally, the people who don't have budgets are even accountants, such as myself. You see, we do these things for people who've hired us, and we don't do the same for ourselves. Yes, so a budget, everybody should have a budget. And at a time like this, it's important for even the ones with a budget to rework their budgets to suit the circumstances. Because there's no way that you can have a budget, or let me use simpler words, spending plan. Yes, because that's what it means essentially. Your incomes less, your expenses, and it should give you a position of surplus. At least if it gives you a deficit, then that's not a good plan. That's not a good financial plan. So I recommend use of ratios. Yes, and let me use the example of the 50-30-20 framework, because it's very popular, and I'll briefly say what it is. Here's where it's ratios used to allocate or categorize the expenses, where 50% of the expenses should relate to the necessities, the needs. These are essentials, things that you can't do without. Then 30% the wants, the good to have stuff, and then there's a 20% that relates to investments and savings / debts. Yes, so let me just look at all three, and even why. First, let me begin by why I always recommend ratios. Ratios would ensure that you always stay in a position where you've planned your monies at all times. And here's where I'm coming from. If for example, you said that you'd be budgeting, or you'll be investing an absolute figure, say for example 50,000 every month, and then you suffer a pay cut, you're not going to save anything. But if you're working with ratios, if your income reduces, you will still have a fraction of everything. If your salary or your income increases, you'd still have all the areas covered. So 50-30-20 rule is just one example, not cast on stone whatsoever. But let me begin with savings. What would you have the 20? Or at least maybe to just ask the listeners to at least make sure that at least they're able to save 10% of their incomes. And that should come up.
And if you talk about the 20%, I'll speak for the pastors like Pastor Julian. You need to make sure you pay your tithe as well, the 10%.
Yes, certainly.
And I thought that's what the 20% was.
No. But I'm applying this ratio After you've deducted, you've paid to Caesar. No. Good point.
Your taxes and your tithes. Now the rest is what.
Yes. You've already, those are things you don't talk about. If you're a Christian, really, some of these things, your 10% is already out, just as your taxes have already, been deducted, right? So what would you set aside money for investments to handle emergencies? A time like this. And Corona has taught us that 3 months is no longer enough. Many financial advisors will tell you at least set aside an equivalent of 3 months of your expenses in a near cash investment. I propose that this is moved to 6 months, and if you can, a year. I mean, just looking at the situation, the current situation. Yeah. Number 2, you'd need to have savings because of to meet your retirement needs, and just to encourage everybody, and particularly the young. It's not too early to begin saving for retirement. There are a lot of pluses to starting this journey early in the day. Yes, because at retirement, the needs really increase. And at that time, you're not active. You don't have the energy that you have in your younger years. And another reason for having your savings, this money set aside, is what some financial advisors or coaches will call paying yourself fast. The third reason for this is to meet your personal goals, your short-term, medium-term, and the long-term goals. Yes, yeah. So at least try to have to put aside 10%, at least. And that 10% can be apportioned to meet, your goals, your emergencies, and cover your retirement as well. Okay. Then in these lean times, Pastor S, I'd want to ask the listeners to really, really look at the category of the non-essentials. If you've suffered a pay cut, or even if not, because these are very, very uncertain days, this is a time to look at each item falling under this category. Entertainment, the designer shoes and the bags, ladies, that you want to buy. The subscriptions. You see, some people have subscribed to online learning, LinkedIn, subscription for the TV programs or plans that you've got. You ask yourselves questions such as, do you need like the one with the highest premium? Do you even watch all those programs? You see, your phone plan, is it time that you change your tariff or even your service provider to be able to save as much as possible? Yes, yeah. If you're at a point where you're struggling to meet your financial obligations, the ones that category should be struck off completely. And then now come back and look at your essentials, whatever it is that you've categorized under essentials, because at this point it's very, very important to split the two. What can you do with, what can't you do without, and what must you have? Yeah, as a minimum. You see, we still need to eat, we still need to live under a roof, and all that. Come back and look at these essentials, Pastor S. Do you need to have to eat meat 4 times in a week? Yeah. How can you supplement this? Can you do eggs, beans, yeah, and that will take the place of the protein. Yeah. Do you let
me dandia on this point.
Yeah, sure, Leonard.
A quick thing about what I'll comment a bit what Pastor Julian said and also what Gladys is saying. Yeah. The way Pastor Julian is talking about people managing during crisis and being nimble, reducing, I believe that is how companies should be managed every time, period. I think company leaders need to be like wartime generals. You don't sit around. For me personally, I don't have the employer's dilemma. You don't perform, I drop you. I mean, there's no guilt because usikuje kuwa kazi, kuje ufanye kazi. I think that's how we need to have that discipline. Again with Gladys, I'm not a believer in savings completely. I believe the problem with the African especially and the middle class mentality, we have been taught, do a job, get a job, put a little aside. But can we change our mindsets to being investors all the time? Instead of putting a store for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, can I have something that will generate for me income throughout? You see, I actually don't have a savings account. I just believe in having things that generate for me income all the time. And that for me is, that's financial independence. then I don't have to worry about whether times are good or times are hard, because I don't depend on a salary. And I'm not saying this because I have made some money. This is how I've been living, since I was earning 15 G's a month. That once you change your mind, once you change your mind from being an employee to being an investor, it's just some mindset. And in terms of the ratios, I agree on ratios. My wife and I are a bit radical. We went for 70%.
Yeah.
70% investments, 30% spending. And it's interesting because it's actually possible when you set your mind to it. It's amazing how much we don't need. All the rubbish that we buy and fill our houses with is stuff that we actually don't need. And that can be turned into an investment that helps you tomorrow.
Mr. Mucharo, I know your story, so I wish we had time for you to tell your entire story. I think where Gladys is coming from is for us who are beginners. You need to save, then after a while invest, because we are still growing in understanding these investments. So I remember, in the beginning, that's how I learned how to put, and I love your story. In fact, let's come to your story. But I love what you were saying, Gladys. I think it's when you learn to put some money aside that either you're saving to invest, not just saving for the sake of it, but you're saving to invest.
Yeah, Pastor S.
Yeah.
Pastor S may just interject, yeah? I said that portion of saving is saving / investment / debt. Yes? Okay. I am one person who speaks about not having money in the bank. Why? Because it becomes very accessible. And that's when people even fall into debt, because money needs to be earning something for you. Yes, and that's why I said even for the emergencies, they need to be in near cash investments. You see the money markets and short-term government securities. Yeah, it's just that Leonard got there first before I could finish. I said I'm going back to the ratios one by one. Yes, it's just that the minute you put aside monies for savings, when you're clear on what goals you have, you're going to allocate these monies to the right investment vehicles. Yes, for short-term investments, they go to a separate vehicle. Long-term investments, they go to the riskier ones, because of the privilege of time. Yes, but I agree with him 101%. Yeah, you don't save to keep it in the bank. It's allocated somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's a lesson I had to learn. And I think a lot of us have had to learn that keeping money in the bank doesn't really make sense, because there'll always be people who come and say, I have this need. And if you're a pastor like Pastor Julian and you tell them I don't have, you feel guilty. But when you say I don't have, and it's true you don't have, yet you're making money, but it's already engaged. It went to investments. Let me come to you, Mr. Leonard, and then I'll come to Pastor Julian to continue to build on the steps that you had talked about. But Mr. Mucharo, you have a very interesting, and you've had a journey. I wish people would read your story. Do you have a book yet? But your story was amazing when I heard it the first time. You lived on one, you had a target of when you wanted to make sure that you'll be able to be financially independent. And you denied yourself a lot, delayed gratification, denied yourself a lot, and now you're running major, probably multi-billion projects that you're running right now. So just briefly tell us your story and what you've learned, just in a few minutes, what you've learned with that. And I know there's someone who had asked, what is it that you're investing in? They would want to know. You can tell us where to find those details. Wonderful.
Asante sana. I think when my wife and I met in college as two students, we were okay. I was sure, and I managed to convince her that depending on a salary is not sustainable. The only thing you can really depend on is investment, because investment is real wealth. It doesn't run out. It will stay with you for a long time. Yeah. And so when you are very young, before incomes, we set a number. We said we are going to have a financial independence number. And that time for us, we equated that to fees in Harvard for one child. You know, it costs 6 million shillings per year to take a kid to school. We said, okay, within 15 years, we are going to have 6 million per year from passive investments. Now, I was earning 15 Gs a month. So it was ridiculous. So ridiculous, we couldn't tell anyone. How do you get 15K in active income, and then you're planning to have 500K a month in passive income? But, you know, there's something strange happens when you set your mind to something. And we started, you know, and it started as you call it delayed gratification. But after a while, investing became gratification in and of itself. It was not just what the investment could do for us. It is the act. So first we were denying ourselves, and then it got to a place where I became a bit philosophical about it. Now I live a life called optional poverty, where I live on very, very lean. And I get joy by doing that because, you know, buying a car is not a big deal anymore. Not buying a car when I can, that's a big deal, you know. So the lessons you have learned is, you know, once you get into a life of investments, you learn to talk to your spouse. You know, that's a big plus. You learn discipline. What do you eat? What don't you eat? How do you know? And we have taken that same discipline, because my wife and I work together, to the business. That the business is very lean. That we are not depending on cash today. We are busy storing up cash for tomorrow. So the same lifestyle we have for ourselves is the same whatever we have for our business. Where we don't take debt as individuals to run our daily lives, we also don't take debt for the business. So our thinking, and for me that's why financial independence is first and foremost a mental thing. Our thinking about financial independence, about having buffers, about having sources of income that are passive, has translated from the personal into the business. You know, yeah. So I think for me, that's why my passion for financial independence is always very high.
So let me just ask you, how many projects have you done so far in terms of housing complexes?
We have done 5. We are now on our 6th one on Ngong Road, a total of about 2,000 units. So we thank God. And we started this business model about 3.5 years ago. Yeah. So it's been a short time. We've done quite a bit, completely debt-free. So that's why. So, and for us, we know if we are going to give value to the investor, we must make it as easy as possible. Yeah. So that's why we don't go for the $1 million houses, as the Mchungaji said. We go for 1.6 million, 1.5 million, 2.6 million houses. Instead of asking you to pay upfront, we give you up to 5 years to be able to do that at 30 Gs a month. So once you have, because many of us think of ourselves, what do I want? What can I get? What I. But when you remove yourself from the equation and put your investor at the center of that equation, then you create value. Then it becomes easy for people to come and join that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I mean, those of you are looking for somewhere to invest. I would encourage you to go to Savo. I mean, as I said, I'm paying for a house there, and I want to be able to pay for another as the Lord enables me. But I love the houses because there's studios and 1 bedroom. I don't even think you have 2 bedrooms. It's just 1 bedroom and studio.
Mostly studios and 1 bedrooms. And it's strange that you can actually give a lot of value for a very low price. Even our tenants feel like kings in those houses where they pay very little.
Yeah, and where you don't have to get a loan. You just pay a deposit and then you allow them to be paying every month. They say whether they want to pay 3 years or 5 years, and they'll continue to pay. And once the house is ready and someone occupies, and you're able to work with them for that money to go into the what they're buying. So I love the model, and I want to encourage those of you who are listening in to be able to go there. As we come to you, Pastor Julian, let me just say to everyone, we run some programs as Transform Nations. We are running Man Enough, that is an XY journey online, and we have lots of men who have gotten involved from different countries. We have 1 more week of registration. In case you want to sign up for the Man Enough program, it's 7 weeks, actually 8 weeks online, subsidy reduced rate right now. So you want to catch that before the subsidy is done. We also have EZA, which is the equivalent of Man Enough. That also quite a number of ladies are involved. We have one more week for signups. In case you want to sign up, check that out. All the details are on our Facebook page. And then we have Intentional Moms and Intentional Dads. All those programs are available, and mentoring of boys. So feel free to interact with people on our website, and you will get the details. Back to you, Pastor Julian. I mean, guys, I think we need to do this again next week. You know, time just runs, and there's so much we need to talk about. Just as we come to you, Brian Mashari has said, Msharo, I like the minimalist mindset and investing mentality. It protects from consumerism and enables us to invest for cash flow assets. George Orera, you're saying quite sobering. Yeah, I think many of you just saying we're listening. Thank you so much for the many comments, but let's come to you, Julian. We're just loving and I'm taking notes, some of the things you're talking about, you know, turnaround mindset, innovating within. Someone has mentioned a book that I am actually currently reading, Extreme Ownership, that talks a lot about these Navy SEALs and how they help with business thinking. What else do we need to understand during this time, Pastor Julian? You have a very good view of global business and what is happening because of your investments. So what else do we need to learn? You talked about the employee dilemma as well.
I mean, it's amazing what we're all learning here tonight. And one of the things I think is to always have the disposition of a student, listening to both Gladys and Leonard and yourself, Pastor S. There's so much we all have to. I think that's one of the lessons I've learned in life. Always be ready. I think, Bwana Leonard, and I don't mean to take any spotlight from you, we're building next to each other on Gong Road because I'm with Gishane right over there. And I think he mentioned to me about Savo, and because the whole concept for me of affordable housing was birthed from seeing my church members not being in houses. I realized that we can preach and preach, Pastor S, but until the needs of the people we speak to also become a catalyst for us in how we're looking at things and how we're dealing with things, the solution of a generation getting into homes for me, whether from an investor perspective or just from a value perspective of people must be in homes, you must find what thing goes beyond your bottom line that you would go for, even if it drove you broke to the, because I think we're living in a very opportunistic country. That's the truth. We are. Where you find a lot of the things we're seeing on the news and all are because of the opportunities people have tried to gain so much wealth off of the others. But when we think of the plight of the people and we're able to think about how to bring that restoration, government can be involved, but there's a wave that can happen from people that can bring that wave to where we can actually bring about transformation we want to see through the things we do. And I think there's been a shaking, whether in the churches or in the governments or wherever. It's as though there's been a cry for, you know, please allow me to say this, you know, from a spiritual perspective. When Jesus was approached about tithing, he didn't deny that people should tithe, but he said there are more important things. So this focus we've had on tithing is very good. But if you read Matthew 23:23, he says there are more important things that should be thought about by people who profess to carry anything to do with God, like justice and righteousness, which is doing right, because God is always right. So I think love cannot only be spoken, love must be seen and heard. And therefore we must look at what's the plight going on in Kenya right now? What is it the government cannot resolve? I think the president and his team have good intentions on things like affordable housing, on things that they're trying to do. But I think therein lies, in this great economy called Kenya, and of course to the rest of the world, the ability to decide that we must bring viable solutions. And a crisis like this is a wake-up call. A minimalist drive and mindset, as you know, with what Leonard is teaching us, a drive that's driven by the precepts of the gospel of the Bible, rather in terms of being Christ-centered by love and centered on that, to mean I can actually live on nothing if I see others having, achieving their purpose. I think that whole denial of self to be able to achieve things is what this country and Africa as a whole, because I don't understand, and I say this with all humility, how can we be the most evangelized continent and the poorest? How do we have the most churches and mosques per capita in the world and still be the poorest, most corrupt, something's amiss? And I think therein lies the miss we've had, where faith has missed the action part, which is to start to do good, to deliver that good. I think churches must become great at execution. And I must say, I've learned a lot from the Catholic Church, and we must give credit where credit is due. When it came to hospitals, education, when it came to looking at the arena of, and everything has its red flags. But at the same time, if you look at community impact, I think the Protestant church across the world has got to stop protesting too much. And we say, listen, it's time for us to sit down and look what is ailing our community from the area of education. Because let me tell you, COVID has disrupted education. I made a call to my kids' school, and 80% of the parents have decided to hold their children for another semester. They're not taking them back. What does this mean for education? What role can we play around our communities and education? As Leonard is building houses, as we are building houses, as Gladys is writing books, Pastor Simon, as you're meeting all these men, because the male factor is a critical factor as far as our nation building is concerned. If we all bring our chess pieces to the table, then the government will have to pay attention, because we will be influencers. We may not have billions in our account, but collectively, we will be influencers that cannot be ignored. And therefore, we will have lifted up people to where righteousness and justice start to become a core part of our everyday thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. As we come to you, Gladys, and talk about debt, because there's some people who are in debt right now, what is it they should begin to do? But Julius, you had promised you would say something about the employee dilemma as well. You talked about the employer dilemma.
Yeah, because when you have layoffs and when you have the concern, people are scared. There's anxiety. People are in a dark place. And let me tell you, for those of us who've jumped into being entrepreneurs, let's appreciate that it's a journey we took. It's a long journey. It's a lonely journey. I don't know if everybody in the world can be an entrepreneur, because then then you have all chiefs and we have nobody working. So it's like having a company and everybody's ahead of something. But I do agree with Leonard's views around how people can become financially free, how people can, because I can use my employment to pay that, $30,000 a month to become financially free. So it's not about necessarily jumping into entrepreneurship, because I don't believe, and I'm careful nowadays in trying to push the narrative that we are all entrepreneurs. We are not. It's impossible, but we all have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which says, I will use my existing income to create financial freedom for myself. I have a friend who started doing something close to what Leonard was doing when he was in university and started his first job. And he goes to work nowadays, 20 years later, because he enjoys what he does. He doesn't go to work because it depends on a paycheck, And he just guided me and said, I've been able to live off of the interest of my interest. This guy has gone to the third dimension of living off the interest of his interest. I mean, that's another level altogether. But it's discipline. It's a process. It works. But we need to come out freely with what you're doing tonight, with what Gladys is teaching us, what Leonard is teaching us, and make this information available to people for free. We've got to have a generation that's willing to say, I may not have to make money off of people getting this information. Let people get the information, but also it's an abomination to pour water into a glass filled with water. It's the same way to do that in a room filled with ignorance. Don't add any more if there's no knowledge, if there's nobody listening. For those that are willing to listen, employees, hear me out. You can be successful as a great employee, but you must put on a mindset of financial freedom to be able to make sure when that day comes, if they're laying off, you're not anxious. If they're, this paycheck to paycheck living, it's gonna kill us. It is impossible to live like that.
What did you say your housing project is called? Someone is asking.
Beulah Group. We're Beulah City is who we are. And we've already signed, and we were part of the group that signed 100,000 houses into housing in Kenya in the UN General Assembly. But we've also started doing work on the ground in 4 different projects to be able to give people those affordable homes, 15-year, 20-year payment plans, 10-year payment plans, because that's the answer. What Leonard is doing, tenant purchase schemes, being able to get off these ridiculous interest rates and giving people financial freedom through home ownership, even for their children. It's important. And between Leonard and I, if we build 1 million homes in the next 5 years, we will not be able to satisfy the market. It's impossible. So it's not like there's no secret sauce here. It's about we'll both do well promoting each other.
Yeah. I love it. So Beulah and Tsavo. I think someone else was asking. Tsavo is in Tsavo National Park, but TSAVO, capital letters. If you go to the website, you will, and their Facebook, you will see that. But thank you very much.
Leonard has done an amazing job of design. I love their design.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And yeah, I'm bringing in my friends and telling them, let's go. But in another 5 years, Leonard, you're going to help me start also so that I can be part of you guys in this.
Leonard, nikinunua moja kwako, utanunua moja kwangu.
Kabisa.
Sawa.
Yeah.
All right, Gladys, debt. What do we do during these lean times? What do we do, especially personal debt?
Okay. Thank you, Pastor S. And first, to just begin by telling Pastor Julian and Leonard kudos for what they're doing. Really, I think it's a contribution from different people that will make this country be different in terms of our fellow countrymen. It would be good to have. It's good to have people like them who are uplifting each other. And Pastor S, that makes the two of us. Yeah, we'll both be learning from these two gentlemen that we are working with today. So on the topic of debt, that's a big one. And I'd like to begin by just encouraging the people in debt that there's no pit too big not to be able to get out of, or a mountain so high not to be able to come down from, right? So for the people in debt, the first step will just be to list all debts, all of them, the big debts, the small debts, put them down on paper and total the amount, because we need to be able to see that amount, first of all, for you to be able to, accept, the intensity of the issue. Yeah, and then after that, just formulating a plan to be able to get out of debt. But immediately after, you've informed the right people. Because sometimes I say people suffer on their own. And sometimes you just need to be able to speak up. And the help is just around you. Your spouse, your family, your colleagues, even your employer. Yeah, they'd be able to understand why sometimes you're so stressed out. And yeah, so get it known, but to the right people. No, you don't announce it to the world, and again, even to your children, because sometimes that can cause you to downscale, their school, move them from a private school to an affordable one, just for you to be able to get out of a situation. Then devise a plan of how to get out of debt. And there are two common ones, being able to pay off the debts that attract the highest interest rate first, or starting with the small debt first. Yes, but just come up with a formula and knock off the debts as fast as you can. Yeah, the small ones, beginning with the small debts, what you owe Mama Mboga, Mama Fua, your colleague, 1,000 shillings here, 500 shillings there. First of all, other than psychologically making you feel like you're making progress towards clearing your debt, the other thing is because some of these debts are very shameful. You don't want to walk around your estate and people are saying funny things about you, or that you're not able to go for a family function. Yeah, so in that way, once you pay off a debt, don't start using this amount. Use the same amount plus the minimums that you're paying to knock off as many debts as possible.
Yeah.
Well, option 2, paying off the ones with the higher debts. Yes. Yeah. So the other way to be able to pay off your debts first is checking the items that you own, and just asking yourself critical questions. The things that Leonard was talking about, you've just, you have a lot of things that you don't need. Sell some of this. They'd be able to help you pay off your debt faster. Find ways to be able to earn an extra coin. And Pastor Julian has spoken about that, so that your reliance is not on your 8 to 5, 100%. Where else can you earn extra income for you to be able to pay off the debt faster? Whose help can you look for? Is it your bankers? Is it time that you're supposed to have a conversation about the rent moratorium? And here, to the listeners, is only for the people who absolutely have no way of paying this debt. Because really, even if you don't pay it, you're just deferring a problem. So here is where you're unable to settle your debt completely. If it's a matter such as rent, it will be the time to negotiate with your landlord. But then again, thinking critically whether you can be able to afford the house that you're living in. Yes, because and I've had this conversation with a team before, where I just challenge them to think about the people who they offer help to. Would you be enabling a person who's living beyond their means, so that you're living in some leafy suburb, and you're not able to afford paying your rent, and meanwhile you're being supported by people who live in the lesser, leafy suburbs. So it's just finding a system of which to pay your debt faster. And all of these things can do that. And then, getting someone to keep you accountable. You just need to tell one person or two, a person who would really be firm with you, and, give them permission to really check the progress that you're making, so that you say, this is a debt that I've got and I want it paid off as soon as possible. And in this way, please check on me. And sometimes it may even call for the help of a coach. Because what I say about debt, sometimes it's a result of deeper problems, deeper issues. Do you have a gambling problem? So that even if you pay off the debt, you still think that maybe you need to gamble to be able to earn your income. Is it because you've got a drinking problem? Is it because you're unable to, to have boundaries, so that you earn an income, but, you overgive, if there's something like that? And this is really interesting, because I'm talking to pastors.
Problem. Maybe you just have a spending problem. You buy things you don't need, or you don't need to buy at that point.
Exactly. So
assessing where you are at and looking at the root issues, so that you begin to deal with them.
Yes, because you'll get out of debt and still find yourself, back into that situation. But then it all begins with just taking charge of your money. The mindset. What stories are you telling yourself when it comes to money? Are you telling yourself that I cannot be rich? I cannot put up flats like Pastor Julian and Leonard. What stories do you tell yourself? Because a lot of times the people who get into debt, it's because we just self-sabotage. And again, because of those underlying issues that I've just spoken about. Yes, but it takes deliberate effort.
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, gentlemen and lady, we are almost out of time. I think we will definitely do this again, if all of you would be open to that. Quite a few questions. Pastor Julian, let me ask you this one, as you also give some of your closing remarks. Memo is asking more details on how you can leverage debt and acting as a catalyst for development, and mirror it to your operational capacity. I don't fully understand what he's asking, but in case you have an idea, feel free to say something out of it.
Okay, and then, okay. So I think he's asking how is it okay, or can one leverage debt for development? I imagine also for building your business. I've done that. I've done that before. I'll tell you this: personal debt is I mean, if you can avoid it, and to what Gladys is saying, run from it, because you just, I mean, there's a man I met once. I was a young man. I was in school, and we went to visit him with my brother in Austin. This guy was building everywhere, doing amazing jobs. So when he met us, I think he had really expected, because of the way we had set our profile and everything, he was expecting some really big shots. And these two students walk in, and you know, he just immediately calmed down because he had put on a suit. He never used to wear a suit. So we told him, you know, he asked us, so what have you done? Where have you built? What have you guys been doing? He said, we haven't done anything. We had zero. He said a very important thing, which I only got to learn later what he meant, because I think I was 21 or 22 at the time. He said, you know, zero is a very good place to be. It's not a bad place to be. and 10 years later, when I was in debt, I understood what the man meant, because there's a place below zero. There's a place below ground zero. And let me tell you, when the person who you owe money calls you at 3 a.m., you have to panic, or something has to happen to your life. So the Bible doesn't give any provision for a debtor. It just says the rich shall rule over the poor. If you're in debt, those who you owe money will always rule over you. With their policies, with their phone calls, you won't have peace. If you can avoid it, avoid it. However, there is some kind of debt, and I want to call it mezzanine debt, different kind of debt that does not get you in trouble. So you have to be very smart about how you want to leverage that. And I can't exhaust it here, but the point is there some of those programs exist. I was in a business in 28 markets, and we could either use our own money or the banks were giving us their money, and I had enough room to take their money. And therefore, I chose to preserve my personal capital from the business that I had gained and not necessarily use that. Because if you keep putting in your money into a business, yes, it's okay, but it depends on what kind of business. That kind of business I was doing then could not have worked with my own money. First of all, it was growing faster than us, and then we had capacity. So depending on what you're doing, but with what Leonard said earlier, you can do real estate without debt. It'll be slow, but clearly there's appetite in Kenya for genuine, non-greedy developers, authentic, non-greedy developers. And let me say, that is the same in mining. It is the same in agriculture. It is the same in a milk factory. If you can be a person that your customers just start to believe. There's another gentleman I know, just like Leonard. He's doing his 7th development. This guy, people just come and line up when he's building because they know he's not greedy. He just takes what is right and gives the rest to them. So I think the one lesson we all have to come out of here with is, as much as you may want to use debt, the problem is if Leonard did that with debt, he may not be able to give his customers what they're looking for. He would have to be, the bank won't allow him. So he may not be able to give the freedom to the people. So you may want to look out for partnerships. So in our case, what we've done, we've partnered with somebody that has the kind of capital we need to build affordable housing and give people 10 years to pay. So it's not my money, it's a partner's money. And that has enabled us to be able to deliver. In Leonard's case, he has found willing Kenyans who are also coming to enable him, and he's delivering. If you don't have a delivery track record, ability, capacity, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. So I say, take time to study those who've done it for a long time. The beauty of wisdom and honor, in my view, I always believe honoring a gray head, and a gray head here means someone who's gone ahead of you, will save you from serious lessons of failure. I always say, if you stand up for an old person in a bus, whatever that person has been through in life will respect you the day you're going through that thing. Because honor will remember you in the future for having learned from that person. So to a person like Gladys who's written the books, before you go writing any books, go to someone who's written books and be a student. Before you go building houses, go and sit with Leonard and say, Leonard, I have this thing. If I go to the bank, they're willing to do this. If I do this, and allow them, be a student. Be a student. I had the privilege of meeting, one of the wealthiest people in the world, and I saw something in that office. I was in their office for 2 full days, and when I was in Seattle, I didn't mean to say that, but when I was there, and then after that, I left for Mexico to meet the same, another family. Two different billionaires, same thinking. They were sitting like students in their office, listening to their people, talking down at them. You'd have wondered, if you talk like that in Africa, you'd be fired by that guy. But these guys were taking a lot of heat from their people. It means over time, they've realized the kind of people I've employed are not yes men. They're people who give me advice and I listen. The disposition of a student mindset is key no matter how big you grow. So to that question, and that can be my closing remark, Pastor, because I see our time is up, I say the lesson today, just be a student. Go learn from those who are doing it and figure out how to do it better than them, because if they're a good mentor, they will even want you to go further than them in what they're doing.
Well, thank you very much. And Julian will come back to you so that you may pray for us as we end. Mr. Leonard, lots of people are congratulating you for great work that you're doing. And we'll come back, I think, next week if you guys are available and do a part 2, just because of a demand. I see a lot of questions and comments of how great a discussion this is. Maybe a few closing remarks from you, Leonard.
I was touched by Gladys' comment on shameful debt. I remember in my earlier days, I was going to work, and the mama kiosk akaniambia, "Oh, najitaka architect, hata maziwa na mkate hujaripia." And it's I feel and I learned to read. So well done. I think I will look for your books and read. I've learned to become a voracious leader. Pastor Julian, thank you. I think the idea of being a student, even Proverbs talks about, I think I call that the kingly mentality, seeking wise counsel. And if you're a king, you're seeking counsel from those below you. So that's a kingly mentality. So yeah. So in terms of investments, to close, we went to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to find out where the Kenyans spend their money, the middle class. And they spend their money on meals and bills. That's basic needs. They spend their money on malls and bars. That is consumerism. That for me is the biggest cancer. I think, with all due respect to the pastors, it is now the biggest religion in the world. This thing called consumerism. It has infiltrated everywhere. They spend their money on homes and cars. Conspicuous consumerism. When Joroge does this, I want to do better. When Onyango does that, I want to be seen more. And, they spend their money on debt and betting. Borrowing money. We talked about debt, Gladys. I agree. Just before COVID, we listened to our people in the office, the key guy, and asked them, who has debt? And people had all these man of mobile phone debt. And I told them, if you can live with that kind of debt, with those kind of interest rates, you can live without it. And many of them committed to clearing. And I'm happy that I think a majority of the guys were able to clear that. A lot of it is a mindset. If you say, I'm going to get rid of it, I think you can get rid of it. And betting, for me, is not just these betting companies. It's putting your money in something you don't understand. Anything that is shiny, you've thrown your money there. You hear your neighbors talk about it. You hear your friends in the bar talking about it. No. I think people need to take be slow, learn, and only put your money where you are fairly sure that you're going to get a good return. And put your money with people that you have searched. So even before you invest with me or anyone else, study these people, study my lifestyle, study everything to know that your money is not getting lost. So thank you very much. It's been an honor to be among you wonderful people. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Great has been my honor to have you, and I hope that people are going to invest with Savo as well. So I invite you, friends, to join me in us investing. And Beulah, Gladys, closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Pastor S. So I just want to tell the people who are tuned in that matters personal finance are everywhere, in the internet, on YouTube, books such as mine. Information is everywhere. But personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. So you cannot do what feels good with money and be anything but broke. Sorry, guys, that's the plain truth. Yeah, so make money your friend. The raw material for money is money. So treat it right. The ability to delay pleasure for future good, almost always. Yes.
Wow. Thank you very much, Gladys. And before we come to you, Pastor Julian, so that you close for us with a prayer, I think we believe in God's wisdom. The Bible actually says in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6, for the Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, come knowledge and understanding. And it says he stores up sound wisdom for the upright, and he's a shield for those who walk in integrity. I mean, I love those words. There's a lot we could say there, but my closing remarks is, guys, as we continue to look into the future, I think I was just writing here A, B, C, D, F, and I'll say it very first. Number one is assess where you are at. Are you in debt? How much money do you owe people? Where are you at? Is your job likely to go at some point? Have a good assessment of where you are at so that you know how to plan. Number two, be bold. Make the right decisions, whether it's cutting costs, whether it's releasing some employees to the mercies of the Lord and for God to guide them where they need to be. Whatever you need to do, which is sound wisdom, be bold. C is cut costs. Make sure you cut costs, whether you're earning a lot of money or not. During lean times and generally in life, don't use money you don't need to use. Cut costs. D is determination. Don't give up. It's going to be hard for some of you. You may lose your jobs, or may have to close down your business and see what else to start. Do not give up. Keep fighting on. You're not dead until you breathe your last. So keep rising up and keep fighting to the very end. E is explore new opportunities. What are new opportunities or new things that you can begin to do to earn some money, even as you work or do whatever else you're doing? And F is face the future with confidence. So again, thank you, everyone. As I said, we're going to do this again next week. I'm really grateful to all of you who have been part of this. And we just want to ask Pastor Julian to end for us with a word of prayer.
Allow me to just close by saying this as I finish. I'm not giving a new point. I've gone to Leonard's site, and I must say I'm extremely impressed. I encourage all of you to go to savo.ke. It's savo.ke. I'm looking in there. I'm seeing studios, okay, 1 bedrooms in Roysambu, completely sold out. This is how it works in the kingdom. I'm not threatened by Leonard's success because I realize the more we come out together and do these things, the better. And then you've got Mbakasi, and he's got payment plans for 12K for a studio and 20K. So Leonard, I'd love to introduce you to some people who are looking for something like this very big group out of the diaspora. And they approached us 2 weeks ago. I think you're even more prepared than we are on a couple of things because I can see you've got something. So please, let's get in touch and spread some love around and get you a few more buyers, including some of us. But I'm only buying from you if you're buying from me. Wonderful. I'm completely excited by tonight, and Gladys, it's been such a joy meeting you. Congratulations on the amazing books you've written. Pastor Simon, people are asking you if we are coming next week, and if you're going to get us, you need to tell us now so that we lock time down.
Yeah, I think you're locked down. I think there's just so much. You've
decided.
There's so much demand. So I've made a roadside declaration. We're doing it tonight.
Okay.
That is the 6th of September. Okay.
Yeah.
Same time?
Same time. So all of you on Facebook, in all the pages, we're here next week. We'll proceed from where we have stopped. There's a lot more to cover. So be prepared for next week. Yeah.
Father, thank you for this amazing time we've had. Thank you for Pastor Simon for putting an amazing session together for the benefit of people on the earth. And Father, we pray for everyone that has listened tonight to the wisdom shared here, that Lord, everything we've discussed and shared has given you glory. Holy Spirit, if there is anything we've spoken out of turn that did not please you, we ask for forgiveness. and for intercession to be able to just remove those words from our destiny and replace them with the words of God. And we pray now for everyone who is here that Psalm 90:17 will be our portion, that Lord, you will establish the work of our hands, and that Father, generations from now shall remember people like us that lived at a time like this, that changed their story because we made the right choices and made the right decisions, because Lord, you are right, you are righteous, and we honor you and bless you. Let there be justice in Africa. Let there be the right decision making in Africa. Lord, help us demystify politics so that we can be able to have a continent that now operates on the precipice of your kingdom, which is built on righteousness, justice, and mercy. We honor you and we bless you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
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 Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. And the books, Gladys, will be available and on my page to all listeners. There's some books that are available. There's one I'd like to recommend, The 5 Commitments of a Real Man, that I wrote last year. You want to read that and give it to someone else to read.
I'd like to get a few for our church, please. Gladys.
All right. I will do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Julian. But thank you, everyone. God bless you. And again, remember our programs are available. Feel free to sign up for it. Have a good night, everyone.